She stood in the rain with her hands pressed flat against her own front door and knocked until her knuckles hurt. Nobody came. From somewhere inside the house, the one she had scrubbed and painted and decorated with her own two hands, she could hear music. Low and easy, the kind you put on when you want the evening to feel soft. And then she heard laughter. A woman's laugh, high and familiar, bouncing off walls that Amara had chosen the paint color for. She stepped back from the door. Her bags were on the porch, 3 of them, packed neatly, which was the part that disturbed her the most. Not thrown together in a rage, not stuffed carelessly, packed, folded, her toothbrush wrapped in tissue. That meant he had done this with a calm mind. He had planned it. He had stood in the bedroom they shared for 4 years, opened her drawers one by one, and put her things away like she was already gone. Amara pressed one hand to her stomach. 7 months. The baby moved, a slow roll that she usually loved but right now felt like the loneliest thing in the world. She had been at her prenatal appointment. She had called Curtis from the clinic to say she was on her way home. He had said, "Okay," just that, one word, and she had not heard anything wrong in it. She pulled out her phone, 14% battery, she called him. It rang 3 times, then he picked up. "Curtis?" Her voice was very steady. She was proud of how steady it was. "Curtis, I am standing on my own porch in the rain. My bags are outside. What is happening?" There was a pause. Then he sighed. Not an upset sigh, a tired sigh. The kind you give when someone asks a question you thought you had already answered. "Amara," he said, "I sent you a message." "I did not get a message." "I sent it this morning." "Curtis," she kept her voice low, "open the door." "I can't do that right now." She closed her eyes. Rain hit her hair, her shoulders, the curve of her stomach. She thought about the 4 years she had given this man. She thought about the catering business they had started together in her parents' kitchen, the long nights printing menus at the table while he handled calls, the savings account they shared, the plans. She thought about the morning she had told him she was pregnant and he had lifted her off the ground. "Is there someone in there with you?" she asked. Silence. She already knew. She had known for 3 months, in the way that you know something before your mind will let you say it out loud. The late nights, the locked phone, the way he had stopped reaching for her hand when they walked. "You need to call someone to come and get you," Curtis said. "I'll talk to you when things settle down." The call ended. Amara stood there for a moment longer. She tried her friend Bree. The phone rang and went to voicemail. Bree was in a night shift at the hospital and never heard her phone. She tried her cousin. No answer. Her phone hit 5% and she stopped calling. She sat down on the porch step beside her bags, in the rain, while the music played on the other side of the door. This is the part that stays. Not the betrayal itself. Betrayal is a single moment, a crack. What stays is the sitting, the waiting in the wet. The way the music from inside the house was almost cheerful, like a joke that only one person in the room knows. Amara sat there until the cold moved through her coat and into her bones. She sat there until her phone died. She sat there until she understood fully and completely that nobody was going to come out and bring her inside. Then she picked up 2 of her bags, left the third one because it was too heavy, and walked. She did not know where she was going. She walked down their street, then down the next one, then across the road that had the broken streetlight she had emailed the council about twice. She walked past the pharmacy and the nail salon and the little supermarket that closed at 10. Everything was dark or shutting. The rain was not heavy anymore, just thin and steady, the kind that does not look serious but soaks you completely. Her feet began to ache. Her back, which had been difficult for weeks now, sent sharp lines of pain up her spine with every step. She stopped at a bench near a bus stop and sat down. She breathed. She put her hands on her stomach and felt the baby shift again, slower this time, like the child was settling in for the night. "I know," Amara said quietly to the baby and to nobody. "I know." She had $32 in her purse. She had no phone. She had 2 bags, wet hair, and a back that was beginning to scream. She was 7 months pregnant and she had nowhere to sleep. She sat on that bench and she did not cry. She had done her crying quietly in the shower for 3 months, small careful tears that she washed away before he could see them. She was past crying now. What she felt in that moment was something colder and more useful than tears. She was not broken. She was furious in the deep, low way that does not burn out quickly. She would figure this out. She just needed to figure it out right now, tonight in the rain. It was a warm white light, not bright enough to hurt your eyes but steady enough to stand out in all that dark. It came from the window of a small shop on the corner of Carver Street, a shop she had walked past 100 times in the daytime but never noticed at this hour. A hand-painted sign above the door said, Eli's Bakery. Below that, in smaller letters, open 5 a.m., 3 p.m. The light from inside meant someone was awake, someone working. And working at midnight in a bakery could only mean bread, morning bread, being made now so it would be ready when the doors opened. Amara did not let herself think too hard about it. She picked up her bags, walked to the bakery door and knocked. Inside she could hear movement, the shuffle of shoes on a hard floor, the slide of something heavy on a counter, then footsteps coming toward the door, and the door opened, and a man stood in the frame. He was not a tall man, not a short one. Medium build, wearing a white apron dusted with flour, a plain gray long sleeve underneath. He had a careful, open face, the kind that did not react dramatically to things. He looked at her, the wet coat, the bags, the stomach, the expression on her face that she had no control over anymore. "Are you all right?" he asked. "No," Amara said, because she was done pretending tonight. He stood back from the door and held it open. She walked in. The bakery was warm in a way that felt almost physical, like stepping into something, not just a temperature. It smelled of yeast and butter and something sweet she could not name. There were trays lined along one counter, a mixer turning slowly in the corner, and dough on the large center table under a cloth. The overhead lights were soft. Everything was clean. He pulled out a stool from behind the counter and set it near the table. "Sit down," he said. It was not unkind. It was the voice of a person who could see when another person needed to stop moving. She sat. He went to a small stove at the back and came back with a bowl of soup. Not fancy soup. It was the kind you made from what you had at the end of the day, potatoes and some kind of green, but it was hot and it smelled real. He set it in front of her with a thick slice of bread that she could tell was still from today, not yesterday. "Eat first," he said, "then anything else." She ate. She had not realized how hungry she was until she started. She had missed lunch at the clinic. She had been expecting to be home for dinner. The soup was simple and the bread was soft, and she finished it all without speaking, and the man went back to his work at the table, folding dough with the quiet rhythm of someone who did this in his sleep. When she put down the spoon, she felt her hands shaking, not from cold this time, from everything that had been held too long. "Thank you," she said. He looked up. "Is there someone I can call for you?" She explained about the phone being dead. He brought a charger from the back and plugged it in on the counter beside her, then set a glass of water next to it. While her phone charged, she looked around the bakery. There were photographs on the wall near the register, a family, older. A woman in an apron who had the same careful eyes as the man in front of her. An older man with big hands. And a small photograph tucked in the corner of a frame. A younger version of this man in a graduation cap, standing in front of a building she did not recognize. "Is this your place?" she asked. "My parents' place first," he said. He did not stop working while he spoke. "They gave it to me 6 years ago when they moved back south. I kept everything the same except the sign." "You bake alone?" "I have help during the day. Mornings I do alone." He glanced at her. "It's quiet, I like it." She looked down at her hands. "My name is Amara." "Eli," he said. Her phone turned on. She called Bree. It rang 4 times and then Bree's voice came through, tight and worried, and Amara explained in short sentences where she was. Bree said she would come as soon as her shift ended at 6 in the morning. She said it with the urgency of someone who was already furious on her friend's behalf. "My friend is coming in the morning," Amara told Eli when she hung up. "All right." He said it without any particular weight, without making her feel like she was a problem. "There's a chair in the back that folds out. I use it when I have a late night. It is more comfortable than it looks." She looked at him carefully. He was already back at the table, hands in the dough, not looking at her. "Why are you being kind to me?" she asked. It was a real question. He thought about it for a moment. "Because it's late and you're wet and hungry and you knocked on my door," he said. "I don't think there's a more complicated reason than that." She stayed in the back room on the folding chair, covered with an extra apron he folded into a makeshift blanket, and she listened to the sound of someone working through the night, the rhythm of mixing, the hum he did under his breath when he thought no one was listening, the soft thud of dough. It was the most ordinary sound in the world, and for reasons she could not fully explain, it was the thing that finally let her close her eyes. Outside, the rain kept falling. Inside the bakery, on a chair that was more comfortable than it looked, Amara slept. Bree arrived at 6:13 in the morning, still in her hospital scrubs, with her coat thrown over them and her face in an expression that Amara recognized from every difficult moment in their 15 years of friendship. Jaw set, eyes bright, the particular look of a woman who had been thinking hard on a drive over and had reached several conclusions. She hugged Amara first, long and tight, one hand against the back of her head. Then she looked at Eli, who was flipping the sign on the door from closed to open. "Is she all right?" Bree asked him directly. "She ate and she slept," he said. "The baby is fine. She should still see her doctor today." Bree nodded, then turned back to Amara. "We're going to my place." And here was the problem. Bree had a studio apartment, one room, with her sister visiting from out of town who was already sleeping on the couch. It was kind of Bree to offer, but even as Amara opened her mouth to say yes, she could hear how complicated it would be. The space, the timing, the sister who did not know Amara well. 7 months pregnant in a studio with 3 adults. "There is a room upstairs," Eli said. Both women looked at him. He did not look away or seem embarrassed by saying it. "My parents had a flat above the bakery. I use one room for storage. The other room is empty. It has a proper bed." He paused. "I am not saying it as a permanent thing, just until she has somewhere better to go." Bree looked at Amara. "I don't know you," Amara said to Eli. "No," he agreed. "And I'm not going to tell you what to do. I'm just saying the room is there." Amara said no that morning. She went to Bree's apartment and spent 2 days on the sofa with Bree's sister's feet near her face and the sound of traffic through a thin window. It was not comfortable. On the 3rd day, Bree's sister's visit extended by a week, and Amara looked at the situation plainly and honestly. She called Eli. "Is the room still available?" she asked. "Yes," he said. "I will pay you. When you're back on your feet, there's no hurry." She moved in that afternoon with her 2 bags. The room was simple, a single bed with a clean white cover, a small table, a window that looked out over the street below. It smelled faintly of flour from the bakery below, which she had expected to bother her but somehow did not. It was a calm smell, an honest one. She spent the first 2 days mostly in the room. Eli knocked once each morning with a plate, toast, eggs, something easy, and left it outside the door without making it into a conversation. She appreciated that. She was not ready for conversation. She was still sorting through the landscape of her own life, trying to understand which parts were still standing. On the 3rd morning, she came downstairs herself. The bakery was in full swing. Eli was behind the counter while a young woman named Kara handled the front. There was a line out the door. Amara sat at a small table in the corner with a cup of tea and watched the way the shop moved, the rhythm of orders, the way Eli worked without rushing, the way the customers relaxed when they walked in. An older woman named Greta came in every day at 7:30 and always ordered the same thing, and Eli had it ready before she asked. By the end of that first week, Amara had started to feel safe in the way you only realize after the fact, not dramatically, not like a switch, but gradually, like the difference between a tight fist and an open hand. Bree called every day. Bree was one of those people who processed emotion through action, and what she was doing in those days, when she was not at the hospital, was making calls, gathering papers, and following a thread that she had begun to pull. "I need you to stay calm when I tell you what I found," Bree said on the phone on Thursday evening. Amara was sitting on the bed upstairs. Below her, through the floor, she could hear the low hum of the bakery equipment being cleaned for the night. "Tell me," Amara said. "The affair with Tara has been going on for 2 years," Bree said. "I have proof. Messages, receipts, one of his work colleagues told me everything. She has been to your house, Amara, while you were at work, multiple times." Amara was quiet. "And that is not the worst part," Bree continued. "I found a document from the catering company, a transfer of shares. Your name is on it as the party giving up her shares. It is dated 8 months ago." "I never signed anything." "I know you didn't," Bree said. "I have a copy. I showed it to a friend who does forensic documents. She says the signature is wrong. It does not match your actual signature on any other company document." Amara closed her eyes and pressed her back against the wall. "He forged it," she said. "Yes." She stayed on the phone with Bree for another hour, going through the details, asking questions. When she hung up, she sat in the quiet room above the bakery and she let herself feel the full weight of it, not just the betrayal of love, but the betrayal of trust in every form. He had taken her from the business they had built. He had been planning this. Downstairs, the cleaning hum stopped. There was quiet. Then the sound of a single pair of footsteps going up the stairs, stopping at her door, and a knock. "I left a plate outside," Eli said through the door. "No pressure to eat it tonight, just in case." She heard him walk away. She got up, opened the door, brought in the plate, bread and a small bowl of stew, and sat back on the bed. She ate every bite. Tomorrow, she decided, she was going to start fighting back. Bree came on Saturday with a folder. It was an ordinary brown folder, the kind you could buy in any office supply shop, and she set it on the small table in Amara's room and opened it without ceremony. There were papers inside, printed pages, photographs, a small stack of documents with highlighted sections. "I need you to look at everything before you say anything," Bree said. "All of it. Then we talk." Amara looked at it all. It took about 20 minutes. She read slowly and carefully, the way she had always read contracts and agreements, with her full attention, not skimming, not looking for the easy version. Bree sat on the chair in the corner and did not speak. The affair with Tara had started 2 years ago this past spring. Bree had found this through a combination of things. A mutual acquaintance who had suspected for a long time and was now willing to talk. A series of payment receipts that Curtis had made through a shared account before he opened his private one. And a set of messages that his colleague had forwarded to Bree after deciding that loyalty to Curtis was not worth much anymore. There were restaurant bills, hotel bills, a weekend booking at a resort 4 hours away in the month that Amara had been away at her mother's for a family funeral. The same weekend Curtis had said he was too busy with work to come. She had been at her mother's burying her uncle, and Curtis had taken another woman to a resort. Amara turned the page. The business documents were next. The catering company, which was called Bright Table Catering, had been registered in both their names equally. They had started it 3 years ago with savings and one borrowed credit card and a contact list that Amara had built from scratch. The first year had been brutal. The second had been okay. The third had started to be good. The transfer document showed that 8 months ago, Amara had supposedly signed away her shares, 50%, to Curtis alone. The document had been processed through a small legal firm that Amara did not recognize. There was a signature on it with her name. She put the document down and looked at it from a small distance. She had never seen this paper before in her life. She picked up 3 other documents from different points in the company's history: a vendor contract she had actually signed, a bank account registration, a lease agreement from their first commercial kitchen space. She lined up the signatures. The one on the transfer document did not match. It was close. Whoever had done it had tried, but her actual signature had a particular way the A rose above the line, and the tail of the final A curled back slightly. The forged one had neither. She put the documents down in a neat pile and sat with her hands in her lap. "Say something," Bree said. "I'm thinking," Amara said. She was thinking about the timeline. 8 months ago, she had been 5 months pregnant. 4 months before that, Curtis had sent those hotel receipts. The affair had started 2 years ago, and he had been comfortable enough by 8 months ago to start moving pieces, removing her from the business, preparing for a version of life that did not include her. He had been building a new life while she walked around in the old one, not knowing. She had cooked his food. She had gone to his work events. She had been sick in the first trimester, and he had rubbed her back and said the right things. She had trusted him. "I'm not going back to him," Amara said. Her voice was very calm. "I know," Bree said. "And I'm not asking for anything from that woman." "I know that too." "What I want," Amara said, "is everything that is mine, the business, the money he moved, my name on what belongs to me." She looked at Bree. "And I want people to know what he did, not in a loud way, in a legal way, in a way that follows him." Bree smiled. It was not a nice smile, it was the smile of someone who had already been thinking about this for days. "That is why I also brought this." She pulled a card from her coat pocket and laid it on top of the folder. "His name is Mr. Owens. He does business fraud cases. I already called him. He said based on what I described, there is a strong case." Amara picked up the card. She held it for a moment, then set it carefully on the table. "I need to eat something first," she said. They went downstairs together. Eli was in the back preparing tomorrow's dough. Kara had already left for the day. The front of the bakery was quiet, chairs up on tables, floor freshly swept. Amara went behind the counter, found the leftover morning rolls he always wrapped and left in the basket, and brought 2 back to the table along with the butter dish. Eli appeared at the doorway to the back, wiping his hands on a cloth. He saw Bree, nodded. "Help yourself to anything in the case," he said, meaning the glass display case that still had 2 pieces of almond tart left. Bree pointed at one. He brought it over without comment. They sat in the quiet bakery, the 3 of them, and ate. Eli went back to his dough. Through the window, the street outside was turning into evening, the last of the daylight pulling back from the buildings. Amara ate her roll and thought about the card in her pocket, and thought about Curtis signing her name on a document like she was a problem he had already solved. She thought, not yet, but soon you are going to understand exactly what you did. She said nothing out loud. She just ate and planned and let the bakery be quiet around her. Tomorrow she would call Mr. Owens. Tonight she would rest. Her body needed it. Her baby needed it. And she needed to be strong because what was coming next was not going to be simple, but it was going to be right. It happened on a Tuesday morning, 3 weeks earlier than expected. Amara had been up since 5, unable to sleep, sitting at the small table in her room with a notepad and a pen going through the list of things Mr. Owens had asked her to prepare: dates, bank records she could access from her own accounts, names of vendors who had worked with Bright Table and knew her role in it. She had been making good progress on the list when the pain started. It was not like the practice pains she had read about. Those were tightening feelings, uncomfortable but passing. This was different. This sat low and serious and did not stop. She stood up, she walked to the window, she breathed the way she had been taught. The pain did not ease. She went downstairs. Eli was at the mixer, his back to the door. He heard her on the stairs and turned, and whatever was on her face made him pull off his apron before she said a single word. "The baby is coming," she said. "How far apart are the pains?" She told him. He looked at the clock on the wall. "Get your bag," he said. "I'll get the keys." She did not argue. She went back upstairs, took the bag she had packed 2 weeks ago and left by the door the way the clinic had told her to, and came back down. Eli was already by the back door in his jacket with his keys in his hand. He had also picked up her insurance card from the folder she had left on the counter the day before, without her asking him to. The drive to the hospital was quiet. The streets were still mostly empty that early in the morning. Amara counted through the panes and Eli drove steadily, not fast enough to scare her, not slow enough to worry her. He did not fill the car with talking. He put on a radio station very low, something without words, just music. At the hospital, he helped her to the entrance and told the desk person who she was and what was happening with a clarity and calm that Amara noticed even through the pain. He was the kind of person who did not lose his head. She filed that information away. Bree arrived 40 minutes later, breathless, still in her work clothes because she had left straight from the hospital where she worked across town. Joy was born at 11:17 that morning. 5 pounds, 9 ounces, early but fully formed, crying immediately, which the nurses said was exactly what you wanted to hear. The doctor said she was small but strong. Amara held her, and the whole world went quiet in the way it only does in that particular moment, when a person you have been waiting for finally arrives. "Hi," Amara said to her daughter very softly. "Hello." Joy looked up at her with unfocused newborn eyes, and Amara felt something settle in her chest, deep and permanent, like something that had been loose was now properly fastened. She named her Joy because that was what she was, not a symbol of pain or of what Curtis had done or of the night on the porch in the rain. Joy was just Joy, a brand new, separate, entire person who had nothing to do with any of that. She deserved a name that was only hers. Bree cried, which was unusual for Bree. She held Joy and cried openly and did not seem embarrassed about it. Eli had stayed in the waiting area. Bree went out to tell him. That was when Curtis appeared. He came down the corridor in a jacket and shoes like he had dressed deliberately, like he had thought about how to look for this. He had a small bunch of flowers, the kind you buy from a hospital shop, wrapped in cellophane. He smiled when he saw Amara through the glass of the room door and lifted his hand. Amara did not smile back. She did not look away either. She just looked at him clearly and steadily, and then she looked at the nurse in the room and spoke quietly. "That man is not permitted in this room," she said. "Please." The nurse went out. There was a brief conversation in the hallway. Curtis's voice rose slightly. Bree's voice came in then, lower and flatter than his, and Amara did not hear exactly what was said, but she heard the tone of it. The corridor went quiet. A few minutes later, a security officer escorted Curtis to the lift. Amara looked down at Joy, who had fallen asleep in her arms with the extraordinary confidence of someone who had never known anything unkind. "You are not going to know a single day of that," Amara said quietly. "I promise you that." She meant it in the way that you mean things when they come from the deepest part of you, not as a hope, but as a decision. Eli came in an hour later, after Bree had gone to the corridor to make calls. He knocked on the open door. "Come in," Amara said. He stood a few feet from the bed. He looked at Joy the way people look at something that they recognize as important, but do not want to intrude on. "Is she all right?" he asked. "She's perfect," Amara said. He nodded. He looked like he was going to say something ordinary and then thought better of it. Instead, he said, "I brought some food from the bakery. Bree says the hospital sandwiches are not worth eating. I left it at the nurse's station." Amara smiled, a real one, her first in a long time. "Thank you, Eli," she said. He nodded again and stepped back. She looked at her daughter and thought, "All right, here we go. This is where it actually starts." He came to the bakery 9 days after Joy was born. Amara was upstairs, Joy in the small second-hand bassinet that Bree had brought over, the morning light coming through the window and a clean white stripe across the floor. She heard the front bell of the bakery and did not think anything of it. Customers came all morning. She heard Kara's voice, then another voice, lower, familiar, and she went very still. She heard Eli's voice next, calm even, and then the bell again and quiet. Eli came upstairs and knocked. "He is gone," he said through the door. "He was asking to come up. I told him that is your decision and you were not available." Amara breathed, "Thank you." She heard Eli go back down. Curtis called her phone 41 times in the 2 weeks after Joy was born. She knew because she counted. She answered twice, once to tell him she was not interested in talking, once to tell him to direct any further contact to Mr. Owens. Both times he started talking before she finished her sentence. Both times she ended the call. He sent flowers to the bakery address. Kara brought them up. They were nice flowers of pink roses, expensive. Amara looked at them and then handed them back to Kara and said she could put them in the front of the shop if she wanted, or take them home, and Kara chose to take them home. On the 3rd week, Curtis came back to the bakery in person. This time Amara was downstairs. She saw him through the glass before he came in. He had dressed carefully. He had a look on his face that she had once found attractive, that earnest, open expression he put on when he wanted something. He pushed the door open and the bell rang, and he looked around the shop and found her. "Amara," he said. He said it gently like a beginning. "I have nothing to say to you directly," she said. Her voice was pleasant enough. The shop was not empty. Greta was at her usual corner, 2 other customers at tables. Amara did not raise her voice. "If you have something to communicate, please send it to Mr. Owens." "I just want to talk," Curtis said, "about Joy." "Mr. Owens," she said again. "Amara, I made a mistake." "Curtis," she looked at him, really looked at him, not with anger, not with sadness, with a kind of clear-eyed steadiness that she had been building for weeks. "You did not make a mistake. You made a series of choices. For 2 years you made choices. I have made mine too. Please leave my space." He stood there for a moment. The shop was very quiet. Greta was looking at her tea. The 2 other customers were very interested in their phones. Curtis left. He came back the following Tuesday with his lawyer. A letter delivered through the post, not through Mr. Owens, which Mr. Owens later said was deliberately designed to alarm her. The letter said that Curtis was seeking parental rights and access to Joy, and that he expected reasonable cooperation, and used phrases like, "in the best interest of the child," in places where those words had no business being. Amara read the letter once and forwarded it to Mr. Owens. "He is trying to use the baby to pressure you," Mr. Owens said when they spoke. "It is a tactic. A court will look at the full circumstances. The fact that he kicked a pregnant woman out of the family home with no income and nowhere to go is not going to help his position." "What do I do?" "Nothing differently from what you are doing," he said. "Live your life, care for your daughter. Let me handle the legal correspondence." She did. It was not easy. The letter had landed something cold in her chest that did not go away quickly. Not fear exactly, more like the feeling of having something you love threatened. Joy was 10 days old. Joy had not done anything wrong. And the idea that Curtis would use his daughter as a piece of pressure to push Amara back toward a life she did not want, that made her angry in the way that did not pass quickly. She went downstairs one evening when the bakery was closed and Eli was doing the books at the back table. She sat in the chair across from him without asking. He looked up. "He threatened to fight me for Joy," she said. Eli put down his pen. He did not say anything immediately. He had a way of giving space to things before he responded that she had come to appreciate. "Is that a real threat?" he asked. "My lawyer says it's pressure." "Do you believe your lawyer?" "Yes." He picked his pen back up. "Then let your lawyer work. You have enough to carry already." She sat there for a while in the quiet bakery, not talking, just being in a room with someone who was not demanding anything from her. Eventually, she went back upstairs. But before she left, she said, "Eli." He looked up. "How do you do it?" she asked. "Stay that calm about things." He thought about it. "My mother used to say that panic is just energy that hasn't found its direction yet," he said. "Find the direction. Then it's not panic anymore. It's just work." She went upstairs and fed Joy and thought about directions. She was finding hers. It started because Joy would not sleep in the mornings. She was 3 weeks old and she had, from the very beginning, been most alert and wakeful in the hours between 5 and 8, which were the exact hours when Amara most needed her to sleep. So Amara started coming downstairs in those hours, Joy in the carrier strapped to her front, and she sat in the bakery while Eli worked. At first she just sat. Then one morning she started watching what he was doing more carefully. He was preparing the dough for a new order. A local cafe wanted a supply of pain de mai, the soft sandwich loaves. He was going through the ratios from memory, adjusting as he went, and she watched his hands and the way he thought through it without writing anything down. "Can I try something?" she asked. He looked at her. "What?" "I want to add cardamom to that loaf, a small amount, with a little orange peel." He considered this. "This is a commercial order." "Not that one, a separate small loaf just to see." He pulled a separate small portion of dough aside and set it in front of her. She had always cooked. The catering business had been her idea first and her skill first. Curtis had been better with the business side, the calls, the contracts, but the food had always been Amara's. She knew flavor the way she knew her own handwriting. She worked the cardamom into the dough with small, careful movements, grated the orange peel in, then set it in the corner to prove. An hour later, Eli baked it. The whole bakery smelled like something you had not had before but somehow recognized. Greta, who had come in at her usual time, sniffed the air and said, "What is that?" Eli sliced the small loaf and put a piece in front of Greta with butter. Greta ate it and then looked up with an expression of complete seriousness. "You need to sell this." Eli looked at Amara. Amara had Joy on her chest, both of them smelling like cardamom and citrus, and she was trying not to feel too pleased about something so small. She mostly failed. That afternoon, she wrote the recipe down properly. That evening, she made another version with the ratio adjusted slightly. The next morning, she made a third version, and that was the one. The balance was right. The crumb was right. The crust had a snap to it that made you want another piece. Eli put 3 loaves in the front case. They were gone before noon. Kara said 4 separate customers had asked if it would be available again tomorrow. It was available again tomorrow, and the day after. By the end of the second week, it was the second most requested item in the bakery, behind only the croissants that Eli had been making for 6 years. He added it to the menu board with the name Amara had written on the recipe card, Morning Orange. She also called Mr. Owens every Tuesday. The case was building steadily. The forensic document review of the business transfer had come back with a clear finding. The signature on the share transfer was not Amara's. Mr. Owens had filed a formal complaint with the relevant authority. He had also sent a legal notice to the small law firm that had processed the document. And they had responded in a way that told him they were nervous, which was useful. "We have something else." Mr. Owens said on a Thursday call. Curtis's business partner. His name is Gordon, and it turns out he has not been happy with Curtis for some time. When I sent the discovery notice to the company, Gordon reached out separately to tell me he has been keeping his own records of financial movements in the business. He says Curtis has been using company funds to pay for personal expenses, including the hotel bookings and the resort. Amara pressed the phone closer. That's fraud against the business. Yes, Mr. Owens said. Two kinds of fraud, actually, against you and against the company itself. Gordon is willing to cooperate because his own name is on the business, and he does not want to be caught in Curtis's legal trouble. She sat with that for a moment. How long until we can file everything? 30 days, maybe less. She thanked him and hung up. Joy was asleep in the bassinet beside the table, one small fist near her cheek. Amara looked at her daughter and thought about the timeline, the year, the 2 years, all the things that had been done in the dark, all the things that had quietly been built against her while she was going about her ordinary life. It had all been real, but she was also real, and she had not disappeared. She went downstairs and helped Kara close the front of the shop and spent the rest of the evening trying a new recipe, a soft roll with honey and sea salt that she thought might go well alongside the morning orange loaf. She was thinking about building a morning box, a set of items you could order as a set for a Sunday table. This is good, Eli said, tasting the roll at the end of the evening. The honey is balanced. I want to try it with thyme next time. Come in earlier tomorrow, he said. I'll have the kitchen ready. She nodded and went upstairs. Standing in the small room above the bakery, Joy asleep, the street quiet outside, Amara felt something she had not felt in a long time, not happiness exactly, but something that was the beginning of it. Something that said, you are in the right place. You are moving in the right direction. Keep going. She kept going. Mr. Owens filed the claim on a Wednesday. He called Amara the morning before to tell her it was happening. He listed the specific claims in plain language: document forgery, misappropriation of business assets, exclusion of an equal partner from a registered business without legal process, and the use of company funds for personal expenses. He told her what to expect in the coming weeks and what not to expect. He told her to stay away from any direct contact with Curtis, and more specifically, to say nothing on any public or social platform. People want to announce things, he said. Let the court be the announcement. I understand, she said. This is going to move into public record once the claim is filed. His name will be attached to it. His professional reputation will take a hit regardless of the outcome, though the outcome is looking very clear. I know. Does that concern you? Amara thought about the porch in the rain. She thought about the forged signature. She thought about a weekend at a resort while she was at her uncle's funeral. She thought about $32 in her purse and 14% phone battery and a bench on a wet street. No, she said, it doesn't. Gordon, it turned out, had been more careful than anyone had given him credit for. When he and Curtis had started the business together 5 years ago, Gordon had a habit he developed from working in accounts for 15 years before that. He kept a copy of everything: receipts, bank statements, wire transfers, emails where Curtis had approved payments that did not match any supplier they had on record. He brought 2 full folders to Mr. Owens' office in a brown paper bag like he was embarrassed about having them, then sat down and walked through them item by item. Amara was not in that meeting. Mr. Owens advised her to stay out of it, but he called her afterward and described what Gordon had brought with the quiet energy of a man who had just received a gift. He has 3 years of records, Mr. Owens said. Receipts from the resort, from several restaurants, hotel bookings across 2 cities, and this is the interesting part, charges from a real estate agent. Curtis has been looking at properties, specifically a 2-bedroom apartment on the other side of town. Amara was quiet. He was buying a home, she said. He was in discussions about purchasing one, Mr. Owens confirmed, using funds from the business that were not his to use alone. The apartment was for him and Tara. She was certain of it. She did not need Mr. Owens to confirm it. The picture was clear now. Every piece had a place. The affair for 2 years. The gradual removal of Amara from the business. The forged signature. The plans for a new apartment, a new life, while the old one was being quietly dismantled. He had been so organized about it, so patient. And that somehow was the part that hit hardest, not the betrayal itself, but the carefulness of it. How long he had been watching her and planning while she had been simply living. She told Eli that evening, not all the details but the shape of it. They were sitting in the bakery after close, Joy asleep upstairs, the radio playing quietly. She had become easy about talking to him. He listened the way he did everything without rushing it, without filling the gaps with his own noise. He was planning a second life, she said, a whole other future, and I was just an obstacle in it. Eli was quiet for a moment, and now. She looked up at him. Now you are building your own future, he said. He is not in it. That was his idea, actually. You're just making it work for you. She looked at him for a moment longer than was strictly necessary, and then she laughed. A short, surprised laugh, the first real one in months. He looked pleased in a quiet way. Meanwhile, the legal machine was moving. The discovery process required Curtis to provide financial documents going back 3 years. His lawyer sent what he was required to send. Mr. Owens' team went through them carefully and found what they expected to find: gaps, transfers, reclassifications of expenses that did not hold up under examination. Curtis's lawyer called Mr. Owens twice in the 3rd week to discuss a settlement. Mr. Owens brought both offers to Amara. The first was low. The second was also low. He thinks you need money quickly because of the baby, Mr. Owens said. He thinks you'll take less than you are owed to make it easier. Then he still does not understand me, she said. Tell them we are proceeding. The case moved forward. At the bakery, the morning orange loaf was now producing about a quarter of the morning revenue. Eli had mentioned, casually and without making it a big proposal, that there might be an opportunity to supply it to 2 other cafes that had asked where they were getting their bread. Amara had said she wanted to think about it. She was thinking about it in the context of a bigger idea, not just supplying bread to cafes, but building back the catering side of the business from this foundation. Bree, who had been making notes since the beginning, had quietly put together a business plan on her days off. She brought it over one Sunday and spread it on the bakery table, and the 3 of them, Amara, Bree, and Eli, sat and looked at it. It was a good plan, clear, practical, with realistic numbers. I want to be part of this, Eli said, meaning the business. Not a takeover, a partnership. You bring the catering and the recipes. I bring the kitchen and the existing customer base. Amara looked at the plan, then at him. We'll talk about terms, she said. He nodded. That is all I am asking. Outside, the street was busy and bright. Joy was beginning to understand what smiling was for. The case was 30 days from a verdict. Things were finally moving the way they were supposed to. The documents became part of the public record on a Monday. Mr. Owens had explained that this would happen, and he had told Amara what it would mean. When a civil claim of fraud is filed with evidence in a case that involves a registered business, the documents are visible, not advertised, but visible. A journalist who covered business news locally had a practice of checking new filings. She found it on Tuesday morning, and by Wednesday afternoon, she had called Curtis's business for comment and reached Gordon, who declined to comment, but in such a specific way that the journalist understood there was a story. The article ran on Thursday. Amara did not read it until Bree sent it to her. It was factual and precise, no dramatic language. No speculation. It named the claim, described the evidence in general terms, confirmed that Curtis had been removed from the company by Gordon following the filing, and included the phrase, "could not be reached for comment" in 2 places. The headline was not particularly dramatic either, just clear. Local business partner faces fraud claim over forged documents and misuse of company funds. Amara read it once. Then she put her phone face down on the bakery table and picked up Joy. She did not feel the triumph she had expected. She did not feel much of anything at first. It was more like the feeling after a long walk when you finally reach the place you were going and you sit down, not excitement, just a kind of deep exhale. 3 of Curtis's major clients called Gordon that day to say they were reviewing their contracts. By Friday, 2 had already transferred their business. Tara called Amara on Thursday night. Amara looked at the name on the screen for 2 full rings. She did not answer. She had no interest in that conversation, and she had told herself very clearly from the very beginning that she would not be drawn into anything that involved that woman. Whatever Tara was going through, whatever she had discovered about Curtis's deceptions, that was Tara's problem to sort with Tara's own resources. Amara had enough. She blocked the number. Curtis came to the bakery on Saturday. He had not shaved in what looked like several days. He was not dressed with the same care as the last time. He knocked on the glass door and waited. The bakery was closed. It was 4 in the afternoon, and they closed at 3. He could see Amara inside because she was at the counter going through a supply order with Eli. She looked up, she saw him. She said something to Eli, who nodded and went to the back. She walked to the door and stood on the other side of the glass and looked at Curtis. He put his hand flat on the glass. His face did something complicated, the look of a person who has finally arrived at the place they cannot get out of, and they are only now understanding that. She did not open the door. "Amara," he said, his voice was muffled through the glass, "I lost everything." She looked at him steadily. "I know you're not going to take me back," he said. "I'm not asking for that. I need you to know that I'm sorry, not for getting caught, sorry for what I actually did." She considered this for a moment. She thought about whether she believed him. She thought that maybe, in the way that people become sorry when their choices destroy their own lives, he might be telling the truth. It did not change anything, but she was not going to pretend she felt nothing when she looked at him. "I believe you're sorry," she said, loud enough for him to hear through the glass. "I also believe that the version of you who isn't sorry is the one who packed my bags while I was at my prenatal appointment. You showed me who you were. The sorry version is real, but it came after the consequences, not before." He lowered his head. "You have a daughter," she said. "Joy is healthy and she is beautiful and she deserves a father who is honest and present. That is entirely up to you. But that conversation goes through Mr. Owens. It has nothing to do with you and me." She stepped back from the door. "Take care of yourself, Curtis," she said. She walked away from the glass, through the bakery and into the back. Eli was there, sitting at the small table, not pretending to do anything, just giving her a place to come back to. She sat down. "Did you say what you needed to say?" he asked. "Yes," she said. "Good." They sat in the back of the bakery in the afternoon quiet. Through the front window she could see the street. Curtis was no longer there. The light was white and clean. Joy was upstairs, asleep. Mr. Owens called the following Tuesday to say that Curtis's lawyer had accepted the terms of the settlement, the full recovery of her business shares, compensation for lost earnings during the period of the fraudulent transfer, and a sum that reflected the financial harm done. He read through the numbers carefully. She listened to all of them. When he finished, she said, "Is it everything that was mine?" "Everything that was yours and the interest on it," he said. "Then yes," she said, "we accept." She did not celebrate out loud. She sat with it for a few minutes in the quiet. Then she called Bree. Bree did celebrate out loud, loudly, for about 3 minutes. Amara held the phone away from her ear and smiled. When it quieted down, Bree said, "What now?" Amara looked out the window at the afternoon light falling on the street outside, bright and white and even. "Now we build something," she said. Joy was 4 months old the day the expanded bakery opened. She did not know it was opening day. She was in the carrier on Amara's chest, facing out at the world with the wide-eyed curiosity she had had since the first week, her small feet kicking with no particular agenda. She had her mother's forehead, and what Bree insisted were her own cheekbones, which made no sense anatomically, but nobody argued with Bree. The bakery had the same sign above the door, Eli's Bakery, but the space was different now. The wall between the original shop and the empty space next door had come down 2 months ago, and what was there now was larger and brighter. There was a proper service counter, new display cases, a second prep kitchen in the back that had been designed specifically for catering work. A menu board on the wall listed both the regular bakery items and the new catering packages, morning boxes, event spreads, custom orders. In the bottom right corner of the menu board, in Eli's handwriting, it said, "Recipes by Amara." She had argued with him about that. He had not budged. He said the recipes were hers and her name should be on them. She had eventually stopped arguing because she knew he was right, and also because she had learned that Eli did not make unnecessary statements. When he said something, it was because it was true. Bree was inside behind the new counter, wearing an apron that still had the price tag on it, arguing cheerfully with Kara about the correct way to arrange the morning boxes. Eli was in the back kitchen with his head down, working with 2 new staff members he had trained over the past month. Outside, there was already a line. Amara stood in the middle of it all and breathed. She thought about a night 4 months ago, a porch in the rain, 14% phone battery, $32. She thought about a bench on a wet street and a small light on a corner. She thought about a bowl of soup and a slice of bread left at a door without commentary. She thought about a folder of documents and a signature that was not hers. She thought about a courtroom document with her full name on it and the word settled, and an amount that was everything she had been owed. She did not think about Curtis for very long. He was a chapter in the story she had told herself, and it had already closed. She had heard through someone who had heard through someone that he was doing mediation to work out a co-parenting arrangement through Mr. Owens. That was as it should be. Joy had a father who, if he chose to be honest now, could still offer her something. That was Joy's decision to make when she was old enough to make it. Amara had taken herself out of that equation entirely. She did not think about Tara at all. That part of the story had never been hers to carry. The door opened, and Greta walked in at exactly 7:30, nodded at the new space with the expression of someone who approved but was not going to say so dramatically, sat down at her usual corner table, and waited for her usual order. Eli came out from the back and put it in front of her before she said a word. Greta ate, then she looked up at Amara and said, "The orange loaf today." "Of course," Amara said. She went behind the counter, sliced it, plated it, brought it over herself. Greta ate a piece and looked at Amara with the direct, uncomplicated eye of a woman who had been around long enough to know something real when she tasted it. "You built something good," Greta said, "just that." Amara nodded. "We did." The morning moved. Customers came and went. The morning boxes sold out by 9. The new kitchen produced a second round by 10. Bree managed the catering inquiries that came in from 4 separate businesses that day alone. Kara took photographs for the bakery's new page and argued with Bree about which angle was better. The 2 new staff members found their rhythm. At noon, Eli came out of the back and stood beside Amara at the counter during a brief lull. Joy was asleep in the carrier, unbothered by the noise. "How is it feeling?" he asked. She looked at the room, full tables, a clean counter, people eating things she had made, her best friend laughing at something on the other side of the room, a sleeping baby on her chest, her name on the menu board. Right, she said. It feels right. He was quiet for a moment. Then, I'm glad you knocked on my door. She looked at him sideways. There was something in the way he said it that was careful and honest and did not ask for anything in return, and she recognized that because she had been watching him be exactly this way for 4 months. I'm glad you opened it, she said. She was not ready for anything more than that, and he was not asking for anything more than that. But the sentence sat between them like a seed in good soil, unhurried, requiring nothing except time. Joy made a small sound in the carrier and opened her eyes and looked at the brightness of the room around her, the people, the light coming through the windows. She blinked slowly, as though the world was very interesting and she had no problem with any part of it. Outside, the street was full of morning. The sun was clean and white. People walked past the window with their coffees and their errands and their ordinary Tuesday business. The bakery was warm with the smell of bread and cardamom and orange peel. Amara had $32 and a dead phone 4 months ago. Today she had a business with her name on it, a daughter with bright eyes, a friend who had never let go, a space that was safe and hers. And beside her, a man who had opened his door in the middle of a rainy night and asked no hard questions, a man she was just beginning to understand, slowly and without rushing, which was the only way that good things are really built. She turned back to the counter. The door opened, and 3 new customers came in. Good morning, Amara said. And it was.